Okay, so we were just talking about these kind of quotes here, and within secondary school, I've had a lot of people who've been told that they can't do creative things. So it might be that that was your experience, and if it is, it's just for me to say to you that um, nobody's perfect, and it's just taking it little step by little step, and just go for it really, because the kids just love doing art, no matter how skilled or not you are. So did you love it? Did you fear it? Did you feel unsure? I know in my art classes at school, the art teacher was there was a lot of pastel peppers that went on in my school. I don't know if anyone can relate to that, but there was a lot of tomatoes and a lot of peppers, which is very, very different now. How does that shape the way that you teach it now? So again, it could influence the way that you teach it now. I have put these three things together here because these are the kind of key tools when you are thinking about doing a piece of artwork. So there are 7 different parts when you are thinking about making up a piece of artwork. There is line, there is shape, I'm plugging myself in. There is form, texture, colour, tone, and all of these pieces make up a full piece of artwork. So I've just picked a couple of them here just to show you a few examples. This is where the videos might go wrong, so apologies if they do. So the first one is continuous line. I don't know if anyone has seen continuous line before, but continuous line is a really fun way, and the kids love it because you can take an everyday object. So for example, what have I got in front of me? I've got like a paint tube. So it could be something as simple as a paint tube. When I was in lessons at school, I would put a kind of still life together. So I would put a few pots of paint, maybe a paint pot, maybe some brushes in a pot, and put them on the middle of the table. And then the children would look at that still life, and they would do a continuous line drawing from that. So all a continuous line drawing is continuously having your pen or pencil on the paper. And this is what the kids love, because it's almost like a competition. They can't take the hand off. Now some of them do, but it just brings in that control for them. So it's being able to actually think about where they're going to be taking that next line when they go along. There's no right or wrong with it. Sometimes I even do this with closing my eyes. So you might have an object in front of them on the table, and then you say, right, I'm going to take away your eyes, your eyesight, your vision. That's one of your senses. So we're going to take that away, and they have to look at the object for 10 seconds, and then they have to draw what they can remember, what's in the head. You could also move it so it's the other hand. So if their dominant hand is left-handed like me, then you might try and get them to do it with their right hand. Now you'll get lots of kind of, oh no, I can't do that, but it brings in quite a lot of fun into the session, because they'll see it afterwards. And you do this over and over again. This is a really good thing that you could do at the beginning of every art class, in fact, because it's just introducing that observation and that observation of drawing. So fingers crossed, this may work. Can you see that video? Sarah, could you stick your thumb up if you can see that video? You can't.
I can't see it.
So what? Let me see. There we go. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yes, thank you. So this, for anyone who doesn't know, this is a continuous line drawing. These are some videos created by Tate Kids, Tate Kids. So from the Tate Gallery, they have some really good, simple videos that you can show that are really educational, and they've got artists and stuff on there as well. So you can see on the screen there that they're just not taking the pen off the piece of paper and looking at that shape. Now with regards to Art Bytes, this is something that you could do. You could do this onto different types of papers that they've created and cut out the shapes and then rearrange them onto a sheet, a bit like Matisse. So you get the idea there. You could use different materials. And it's just about not taking your pen or paper off the piece of paper. Sorry, pen or pencil. And you could look at shade, you could look at tone, look at the highlights and the dark tones. You could even put a bit of shadow on afterwards. So that's a really nice one to do. The other one, which I will do while we're here. So I've got this black thing in the way. So this one is mark making. So I don't know if anyone has done mark making before, so I'll just take it back a little bit. I don't want to play the whole video because that's just boring. So mark making, if you think about being in the cave all those hundreds of thousands of years ago, the first thing that we did was mark making. We got our fingers, we put them on the cave, we got tools, and we, you know, made all these symbols, etc. on the cave. So this again is another really fun thing that the kids love doing. Now, I would personally use drawing ink. This here is drawing ink because it's very liquidy. The only thing I would say is just make sure you get, like, put things on the tables and stuff. And what they actually have done here is that they have created their own brushes. Now, this is the other thing that the kids love, and this is what they used to love when I did this. I'll just show you the beginning bit here where she's got all the different ones. So, I mean, you could collect.
Just made with everything from pine needles. These were just some dried branches from the beach. These as well. And then I have one that has a pom-pom on the end for dabbing. And then this one has a little pebble. And several of these were made in the...
So you could see how the kids could maybe, if every kid brought an object in from home, it could be a feather. It could be an object that they've brought on the way to school, when they've walked to school, and they could pick something natural up as they come along. And then all they're doing is you are using...
And used a paintbrush, because a paintbrush doesn't make it look quite...
You're just using the ink on the end of these makeshift brushes to create these marks. Now, yes, this might not look like a piece of artwork at the end of it, but what you can do is once it's dried, you can cut into it. And by the artist I'll show you next is some examples. You could cut into these pieces, and this could create a beautiful piece. I know, Neve, you were talking about doing a whole class thing. Imagine if they all had these brushes and they all had their own like mark making sheet, but then you cut them all up to make a whole like big piece in your art club, which would be really cool. Kids love this. You can get your hands involved in this as well. You could do fingerprints, you could do all of that. So it's just that, going back to basics of just mark making and having fun. Now, I've done this before where I've got a big roll of wallpaper and I've put it down the middle of the table. So I've put loads of tables together, big roll of wallpaper, and I've played 4 types of music. I've played classical music, rock music, techno music, which they love, and something like reggae. So they've all got a different beat, and then I get them to close their eyes and they'll listen to that music for like a minute. And then as they're listening, they're then feeling into that music, and then they'll start creating those marks depending on what the sound is that is being created. And you could do that with different materials. You could do that with different colours. So each song could be a different colour, for example. You could do felt tips. If you don't want it to be messy, it could be felt tips, oil pastels, coloured pencils, and even fine liners. So, or handwriting pens. Something very simple like that, but they love it because it's a group thing. They're listening to the music, and then you could cut up the sheet afterwards. And if you cut each sheet up into A4, that would be a beautiful abstract piece. But then you could, you know, take that further afterwards if you wanted to. So that's just another little example. I'm trying not to bombard you too much because I get very excited about this. I am sad. I'm just seeing where the other one is. Right, I'll stop sharing that and I will show you the other one. So the third one is this here, which is just thinking about basic shapes when you're doing your drawing. Now, I know a lot of people get really frightened about drawing, especially, like I said before, if they've been told at school that they're not particularly good. My only piece of advice, and these are my top tips, so I always call them Carter's top tips when I was a teacher, is number one, always look at what you are drawing, because I find some kids are trying to draw like this and then they're looking out the window. They're never going to get the actual outline of an object if they're looking out the window. So looking at your object every 2 to 3 seconds and simplifying the actual object. Now you can see on here, for example, the pear is 2 circles. It's 2 circles, one big, one small. And once you've got those 2 basic shapes in, then you can start to put the rest of it in. And each one of these pieces on here, apart from the mushroom, I think, has got a line of symmetry. That's my other tip. Always put a line of symmetry down the centre of whatever object you are drawing, because that will enable the child, once they've done the first half, like my left half is always mint, and then my right half is always not as good. It's like when I'm doing eyes as well. So the line of symmetry just really helps with that. And obviously you're bringing in maths there and doing all the cross-curricular stuff as well. So those are just some simple things that you could do. And I've put a few little bits at the bottom there. As this is being recorded, I'm also going to put it on the YouTube site for Art Bytes, so that you have access to it afterwards if you need that, or you just need to refer back. So I'm just going to look at 2 artists here, because again I didn't want to bombard you too much. So the first one that I think would be quite a cool one to use is Paul Klee. Now he is really known for this quote that he said, which is this one here, which is, "A drawing is simply a line going for a walk." Now you could really take that and roll with it for the whole term if you wanted, so that every time that the children were doing some art, they could start with just taking their pencil for a walk. So where's his pencil going? And they could just be free with that. You could do it to music. If any of the kids play instruments, you could even, and that might be a bit wild, but you could get them to bring their instruments in and play to the class or something like that, which would be quite cool. Bit of cross-curricular as well. Now those mark making sheets that we just saw on the last one with the black ink, imagine if you did one of these pieces like this one on the left here, but all those little squares were pieces of paper, so it became a collage, and you slotted all those squares into each other, but they could all be different kind of materials that have been put onto the paper and cut up. So you could do some mark making, you could do some with oil pastel, you could do some with just pencil, and you could cut squares out of them, and then the kids could slot them all in together to create this Paul Klee inspired piece of artwork. I've just written on the side here that for literacy as well, you could always link it to a book that you may be looking at already in the class, or in the school. If there's a key book that's been looked at in the school, you could link this piece of artwork to that. So as soon as I saw this piece here, the one underneath, the blue one, I instantly thought of Funny Bones. That's one of my favourite books from when I was little. It's that dark sky, it's the moon element that's coming in there, and I could just imagine those skeletons kind of walking through that scene. So you could also link it to a book. Also looking at cross-curricular as well with the maths for shapes and 3D shapes, and talking about the different shapes. So you could also introduce this artist when you are doing those things in maths, and say, look at what this artist has done, and they've used X, Y, and Z shapes. So that might be quite cool. And just on the side there, you can see, I'm just going to move that over. I just put this little portrait down at the bottom here because I thought that could be a really cool but simple idea for the kids, especially for something that you wanted to submit for Art Bytes. Is you could take photos of your student, you could turn them black and white, just enhancing your brightness and your contrast, so that you've got the darkest darks and the lightest lights, and then printing it onto thick paper, and then you could build up just a section of it in a Paul Klee way with those squares and those shapes just layering over the top, and maybe even covering half of that face. That would be quite a simple thing to do, but would be really, really effective. You could do some in paint, some in paper, all that kind of stuff. So the other artist, anyone got any questions? I mean, I will waffle forever on this one. I'm going to take that as a no. The next one is, you may have seen her, I don't know. Have you seen her, Sarah? Yeah. You're the only one who's got your camera on, so that's why I keep going to you, sorry. So this is Yayoi Kusama. Now, she is one of my absolute favourite artists, not only because of her colour, but because of her openness with mental health, which would be a really good one, especially for the kids, because she's very open about it. So basically, long story short, is that she took herself to a psychiatric ward in Japan and just asked if she could stay there because she felt that she just couldn't do the day-to-day things. So she self-referred her into this place. This is many, many years ago. And then she got a studio next door. So every day while she was in this psychiatric unit, she went to the art studio every single day and she painted. And that was her solace. That was her mindfulness. And the spots represent what she used to see. She used to hallucinate when she was younger. And the hallucinations had all of these spots within them. And this is why she has used spots throughout her whole life. They've just been part of who she is. So that would be a really good link for mental health awareness and all that kind of stuff. She also does some incredible, big, huge, like 2D acrylic pieces, which are gorgeous, loads of patterning. The kids would love that, especially if you were, I don't know, say for example, you were reading a story, like a Roald Dahl book to them. And as you are reading the book to them, they could be just drawing the patterns and stuff that come to them as you're talking, which would be quite nice, maybe with their eyes closed, so they could maybe see some of these things coming through. You can see behind her portrait there, that's one of her pieces of the 2D. She also does a lot of 3D and sculpture work. So these flowers you will see throughout Japan. I know Neve was saying that she works with papier-mâché. That would be a brilliant material to use for this. You could just bring in old recycling pieces, but then papier-mâché all up. They could work in groups to do that. If you were submitting it for the Art Bytes, it could be something simple like this piece that's just down on the right. Like, how effective does that look? Yet all it is really is a paper plate that they've then decorated with lots of different spots and patterns, but it looks really effective. And the key when you're submitting your piece for Art Bytes is your photography at the end. So you can make a kid's work look amazing or look really bad just by the photo that you've taken of that work. So you just got to really think about that. For example, that flower that I've put there, if you did that behind a bright turquoise piece of paper or even white, and take a lovely picture of that in daylight, that's going to look really cool, and you could do loads of those together. Another idea was to, if you wanted to link it to maybe healthy eating, you've got those pumpkins just down the bottom there. You could link that to healthy eating within school. They could bring loads of vegetables in. They could do some continuous line drawings first of the vegetables. Then the next session you could maybe look at turning those vegetables into a 3D piece or keeping it 2D. And then you could decorate it in a Yayoi Kusama style. And then you could bring them all together. And it could be a big installation piece, for example, with all these different vegetables, which I'm already like thinking that would be really cool. And then the last bit that I've just put on there is, let me just move this again. You could study like still life. So like I said before, you could put this selection of, it could be a vase, it could be vegetables, it could be paintbrushes or different things from different subjects. So it could be what you're looking at in geography at the moment, or history, could be artifacts. So you could have these artifacts in the center of the table, but then once you've done the basic outline of them, you could decorate them in a Yayoi Kusama way. So you're not really doing anything further. You're not doing extra work for yourself. It's all encompassing of what you're already doing. So if you're doing something in history and you're looking at, say, for example, it was Vikings, then could you not replicate that, but then just put this Yayoi Kusama over the top of it, which just makes it quite interesting. Keeps the kids engaged. So yeah, that was the two kind of key artists I thought might be quite useful, because they're quite simple, but you could do lots with them, or you could do little bits with them. So it's up to you, really. I've also put these together, so you might want to just take a picture of this on your phone. These are some key websites that have really good resources for teaching art. So you've got Access Art. They have lots of lesson ideas. They also have a Facebook page. So if you go onto their Facebook group and page, but the group's really good in that you can ask questions and stuff. They've got lots of resources, so they're a really good one. Take Kids, like I've just mentioned, they do quite a few YouTube videos of different artists as well, which have just been simplified for the kids, so they're good. Art UK. Now, we worked with these last year, and they did this project called The Superpower of Looking, and it's still on their website. The Superpower of Looking is them going into a gallery, looking at a piece of artwork, but really taking it apart, but in a kid's way. So those videos were really good. I really enjoyed those ones, and there were some really different artists in there. And then the last one is Artsmark. You might have heard of it, but it's Artsmark work with schools to engage children in creativity and all of that jazz. I'll just hold on for a minute in case you're scribbling. You got them? Yeah. And just the last one here is, if you need anything with regards to, you know, a project or that kind of thing, do email me and ask, because I have a lot of knowledge in here, and it might be something that you chewing yourself up over, but it might be something that I can simply just answer for you. So do feel free to email me if you need to. And if you would like to sign up to Art Bytes for the next year and get your 10% off, then the QR code is just there if you need to take a picture of that. Does anyone have any questions before I go?
No, thank you. They like interesting, like loads of good stuff there.
Did it help?
Yeah, it's really good.
Oh, good.
The
Good,
thing,
good.
I look at some of those artists, but it's just then knowing how to take it forward with some of
That's, yeah, I think that's the issue, isn't it? It's you see all these beautiful things, but then how do I relate it to the kids?
Yeah, exactly
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Kind of get stuck in a bit of a rut sometimes, like doing the same things over and over. So that's really helpful.
Well, if you had a particular thing that you were looking at, like I said in history, if you just sent me that over, you know, I can just reply with a couple of possible things that you could look at. Yeah.
Thank you.
Everything helps towards, you know, producing this beautiful piece that the kids like are really engaged with.
Yeah.
To produce for the Art Bytes, so that's really good. And Neve or W Dixie, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I don't have any questions, but I found that really, really helpful. I really liked
Brilliant.
the two art teachers, particularly the first one, Paul, and
Paul
that
Clay, yeah.
you can really
You can
visualize
either go really
and incorporate
simple.
everyone's art.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice as well, particularly for younger children, to see how they can relate their art to an artist who has pictures in galleries and that people recognize, because I think that's quite hard to make that distinction sometimes between the two. Sorry, 1 second.
W Dixie.
Sorry, I had someone coming in my class.
All right. Yeah.
No, I found it really, really helpful, and I really like that idea, especially that they can be different sizes as well and different shapes, that you don't have to keep it so
And you don't have to keep it, I
angular.
mean, it depends on your head teacher, but you don't have to keep it all in a rigid A4 sketchbook, for example. You know, art is about being free.
Exactly. No, I found it really, really helpful. Thank you.
Good. I'm really glad you did. And W Dixie.
No questions. It's just really useful to see, especially for somebody who is not very good at art. I needed more help with art at school. So it's just helpful to see ideas that are simpler that we can take into the classroom and get results.
Did that help? Did it give you a bit of confidence?
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. And what's your name, sorry?
Wendy.
Wendy. And which school are you?
Monkton Park.
Oh, you're Monkton Park as well?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm really glad you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, do ask.
Yeah, thank you so much.
See you all another time, probably.
Yeah, thank you.
Ciao for now. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.
You too, darling. Bye-bye.